great master known as Vachaspati Mishra. Vachaspati Mishra. So that Vachaspati Mishra has also written a commentary on Yoga Sutra, that what we are studying. Vachaspati Mishra. So he has written commentary on more than 6 great books, including Yoga, Patanjali Yoga Sutra. So you see, the message is that he was so much absorbed into the knowledge of the real self. So when you are totally absorbed into the knowledge of the real self, outside you find, oh, one person insults you, other praises you, third helps you, supports you. Fourth gives you some problem, but you are totally absorbed into the knowledge. So when you are absorbed into the knowledge, that intellect does not receive any conflict from outside. So because he was writing a commentary on Brahma Sutra, there is another sutra which talks about what is the real self, what is the nature of the real self. And he spent at least 5 years, and he was so much absorbed that he forgot that he was married. But anyhow, his wife was serving him. Wife was also intelligent. So wife was serving him, but once he completed, and then his mind, started looking outside. He was definitely looking. He was aware that someone is serving, but he lost that idea of a relationship. That is what happens. We do it when we fight, but he did it when he was absorbed into the knowledge. His wife's name was Bhamati. So once he has finished and the wife came with a cup of tea, who are you? The Vachaspati Mishra asked, who are you? I'm your wife. Oh, did I get married? Almost 6 years ago. I'm your wife serving. You were busy in writing the commentary on this text. So he was extremely sorry for that. And he named that book Bhamati. So Bhamati book is very famous. Bhamati, Bhamati text is very famous. Coming back, Eastern wisdom or yoga is an instrument of knowledge that reveals the real self in me. See that. The real self is self-existent. Self-existence means it is independent of anything outside. People, place, things, ideas, opinion. It is self-luminous like the sun. It is all pervading. But what happens? We identify with body-mind complex that is constantly changing. So identification is the error. It is the ignorance. So Master says we are ignorant. So what is that ignorance? Ignorance is error in my understanding in the intellect. That I am the real self. That idea, that thought, that knowledge does not settle in the intellect. So due to ignorance, we think we will die one day. How do I think I will die one day? Body dies. So why we study every week few times? Because there is an error in understanding. Are you getting it? There is error in understanding. So say, for example, Stephen says, every time we meet, I am Stephen. Monday, Thursday, I am Stephen. Let me tell you, I am Stephen. Saturday. So he says again, let me introduce. I'm Stephen. Come on, I know it. I know you. You are Stephen. There is a clarity, isn't it? There is a clarity, right? But do you have a clarity? I am real self. Tell me. If you have clarity, you are done with. So, what Master says, there's an error in understanding. Huh? That what is that error? It is that error in the intellect. So that is why the role of the Eastern wisdom is to know what I do not know. Remember, what is the role of yoga? Why Patanjali has written 195 sutras? Why only in one sutra he can do it? Because the error continues, the ignorance continues. The role of the yoga is to know what I do not know and what I can know, to enter into freedom, peace, and happiness. That is what we say ignorance is. Knowledge will remove ignorance or error. So first it will remove the error, and by practice, the knowledge is realized. This is all about yoga, tantra, mantra, etc. Now think of this, from where this error comes. Now I have started using the word error instead of ignorance. Because last week I had one student. So he said, I said the same thing, ignorance causes the suffering. No, but I'm fairly very smart. I'm very intelligent. Then why you are suffering from stress? Our question is totally different way. You may be a nuclear scientist, but if you are suffering from the stress, then there is a problem of error. There is a problem of ignorance, right? So why this error comes? Now see that. Why is this? I feel like crying when people are suffering. God is not crying, but I am crying. I have become greater than the God. Come on. Come on. So we put the reasoning in the logic. More and more, why put the reasoning and logic? To clear the doubt, to drop the error. I told you before also, I had a beautiful woman in India. Her father-in-law died. She was always bubbling with the energy when I was living in Delhi. But when her father-in-law died, she started crying, and her crying was louder than all the people. I said, how come this woman who was always bubbling with the peace and joy, how come she has started crying? So I took her to the room. I said, why the hell you are crying like this? Everybody is noticing. No, no, I was told by my mother-in-law that I should cry when someone dies, then I should cry. Think of this. Error in associations. Another friend of mine who also joins the session sometime. So he said, sir, during COVID-19, I had to attend a service when my relative died. Then why he joined? Because he told me openly. He said, if I do not join the service of my relatives, then they will also not join myself when I will die. I am more worried about my death. The people will not join the service. I'm just giving you some ideas of, I have to think if I want a permanent peace and happiness. So there comes from this idea, from this knowledge comes the understanding of indifference. So we don't go to the modern psychology to understand what is indifference. Indifference to what is error in our personality. That is the fourth, indifference to those people who are suffering. That idea comes from yoga. If I'm real self, the real self is always in permanent happiness, then how and why my mind moves with emotional upsets and crying? Why it should move? So it does not mean if someone died and you are attending the service and you start preaching people. Come on, keep a smile on the face. Remember this, we have to follow the social norms. But how to follow that social norms? My intellect should be clear. It should be free from error. Are you getting it? It should be free from that error. What is that error? Not understanding clearly. Error comes because of association. So, and that association is nothing but attachment. So, I'm not clinging to anything in the world outside. That is an idea of indifference. That is the fourth one. We have covered friendliness, compassion, joy. And now the fourth one, upeksha. It is known as upeksha. It translates as indifference. Indifference. So, indifference, what yoga says, it is the state of equanimity, keeps the mind cheerful in all conditions. You are living in the Himalayas for 10 years. Now you have a tolerance of cold. Now you come to Arizona. What do you say? Uh, I want to live in AC because I hate heat. This is not indifference. You are making a fun of yourself, even if you lived in the Himalayas for 10 years. What is that? What is it? The intellect do not allow that feeling of opposites, heat and cold, to influence you. That is what the indifference. Same thing. This fourth one, indifference, is opposed to fear, rejection, attachment, detachment, delusion, wrong notion, and wrong identification. Then only you live into the state of indifference. So, first, I have been telling you, in this sutra says, first cheerful inside the mind by understanding, then practice to change the mind. And then now you are moving outside. Friendliness to those people who are good, compassion to those. Huh? You see, now you can divide that, but first the cheerful is there, wisdom is there, clarity is there, insight. With that clarity, with that knowledge, you build a relationship. If that happens, you will succeed in meditation. We are studying those sutras where our mind says, I did not understand this. So Patanjali says, follow this. You see that we started with 9 obstacles, 4 symptoms. And then the master says, regular practice with the wisdom will remove all the obstacles. You will succeed in meditation. And then we came to this 4 great tips to remove the obstacles in daily life that will help you succeed in meditation. It means these 4 qualities, 4 traits in the mind, in the intellect, will help us to succeed in meditation. And the fourth one is upeksha, or indifference. First step is the discernment. I must understand. I must separate. Why to separate? I must remove the error in my intellect. What is real and what is unreal? The discernment between pain and the pleasure, between the love and the hate, between the good and the bad. No, I'm suffering too much. No, I have lot of problems. So now see that you are moving, huh? You are moving with your emotion. How come you are suffering? I don't have money. So you come out and you pay me. And I go to the liquor store. My mind should be clear. First step is the discernment, what is real and unreal. The discernment between the pain and the pleasure, love and the hate, good and the bad, inside attachment and detachment, changing and unchanging. Second step is to keep opposite of real and unreal at a distance in the mind. That when I feel the opposite feelings, it is nothing but the error in my intellect. Third step is to perceive the reality of things, people, and condition. Now, take the same example the guy who lived in Himalayas for 10 years and now he is worried, he is totally upset living in Arizona. We have been living there without any challenges and problems. We have acclimatized ourselves. And the guy who lived in Himalayas for 10 years, he has lot of blame and complaints. So he is not getting rid of the opposites. So there is no indifference. So once we have completed the three steps, then we come the fourth step to move the mind in equanimity, to think, to speak, and act according to outer events and condition. It will develop upeksha. It will develop the fourth one. Then the mind remains very cheerful and calm. Inside. Now, see, many people misunderstand the Dalai Lama tradition. They say, they say that may all beings attain a happiness that is spatially exalted. This is their mantra. I'm translating into English. We have lot of mantras. We have no dearth of the mantras. May there be freed from the ocean of their unbearable suffering. So we are repeating it that, but in the mind, in the intellect, the error in the intellect must go. May there never be separated from the happiness of pure liberation. So, like this, there are a lot of statements. It helps you to succeed in meditation. But if you misunderstand that these are the practices of meditation, then you have an error in understanding. The Gita, our Krishna, great master Krishna. I think I covered last week. So that verse comes here. Buddhi yukta jahatihi. I must integrate, if I use the word must integrate, intellect. The intellect has the right knowledge in performing action in the world outside. You are crying and I hug, why you are crying? Okay. And then, I have lot of sympathy now. Yoga doesn't advise this. Even in your relations, even in your family members. No way. We feel our relationship is good, Oh, you hurt your toe? Because you did the blunder. That's why you hurt your toe. Help them, but with intellect should be with the wisdom, not with an error. The body is constantly changing. Sometimes we hurt, sometimes we have sickness. Yesterday night I had lot of shivering and the fever because of COVID-19. I did my second dose on Tuesday. Total shivering, total sweating is there. It is going to happen. These are the changes. So what Gita says, Buddhi yukta jahati means I must integrate intellect in every thought, speech, and action. What is that intellect? Knowledge. Knowledge of what? Knowledge of the real self. So that my intellect does not live in error, in ignorance, and then I perform my action. See what happens in life. You enter into the state of indifference. So, what he says, what Master says, is beautiful. He defines yoga. So, when we integrate, now instead of intellect, I'm using another word. When we integrate the knowledge of the real self in every thought, speech, and action, what he said, tasmat yogai yujyasva yoga karmashu kaushalam. That is yoga is skill in action. That is yoga. That is yoga. And what is yoga? Yoga is skill in action. It means when I'm living in the world outside day to day, with my relations at home, with my friends, with my foes. Some are foes, friends, and enemies. Some people are well-wishers, others are not. So we find lot of different people. So here the Krishna says yoga is skill in action. What is that skill? Thought, speech, and action unites with the knowledge of the real self. So what is the result? Mind remains cheerful. And when the mind remains cheerful, then it always succeeds in meditation. So Krishna has categorized at least 8 or 9 different types of people. Patanjali has summarized into 4 types of people. Yeah. Friendliness, and then he says, I have to have an attitude of friendliness to those people. Friendliness, then compassion, then joy, and then we had upeksha, indifference. So I have to practice first in the intellect. I have to think. Practice in the intellect means what? I must think. Brandy is a bad girl, and I don't want to talk. No, that's not enough. This is an error in judgment. No person is bad and good. Do you see that? My intellect should be refined. This is for myself. Do you see that? Do you see? We brand people instantly. Now, Brandy helps me. So she's a very good. She's very good. She doesn't help me, she becomes bad. Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upeksha, Nam, Sukh, Dukh, Punya, Apunya, Vishayanam, Bhavanat, Chitta Prasadanam, Chitta Prasad. Chitta, mind, Prasad. Full of happiness, joy. Body has a shivering. So I de-identified myself with the body. I changed my shirt twice. It was a lot of sweating. But then I said, no, let me do relaxation. Why to think about it? So by 4, it went away. That is the part of the nature. Chitta prasadanam. 4 categories of the people. So here he explains the 4 categories. Who are happy? Be friendly to them. Who are sukh-dukh, who are suffering, have a compassion to them. But means compassion comes from the cheerfulness. It is not sympathy. It is much deeper. It is the state of the mind filled with the wisdom. Third, mudita. Now, karuna mudita. Mudita, the joy with those people whose your mind says that you are good people. They are good people. So let me have Let me have my expression of joy and indifference to those people who are hmm, who are apunya. So apunya means wise, or you can say who always criticize, they always engage themselves into blame, complaint game. Many people comes to me, when in relationship with a couple, no, he's crazy and she is crazy. So I only say, no, you see that she has done this. There are many ways you can deal with those people. Then I simply ask a question: do you come to me to change yourself or change your husband or wife? That is why you are narrating a good story. Is it worth? Will it change you? Or do you want to change yourself? Is it not an error to blame and complain others? Find out. This is what this message is. So next week, Master says, "Did you did not Patanjali say that you did not understand these four aspects? Okay, come on. We will help your mind by breathing. The next sutra is all about breathing practices, and we will understand deeply